Well, hi, everybody. It's another Conversations with, and today I have with me Captain Rob Barton of the Fire Department, and the captain's here today because there's an article coming up on the town meeting, and it involves a new public safety building.
Yeah, it sure does.
And one of the things that I think, I'd like to start off with, Captain, is I think one of the things that we have to be very careful of is that there's a lot of people who still think Charlton's a small town. Well, Charlton has been growing by leaps and bounds the last 6-7 years. We have a great location, we have a low tax rate, we have plenty of land, and we have great potential for people to move into. And we have a lot of people who are moving from the Metro West area, moving to Charlton. We have great location because of Route 20, and we have 2 turnpike exits, 9 and 10, on each end of us. And so it becomes, I have a friend who moved here from Framingham, and he can get to work faster coming from here than he could from Framingham.
Oh, I bet.
And so it's been a growth factor, and which is great for the community. At the same time, we have a situation, especially with the fire department, where we have 2 different stations. One of them is takes in water, and is up on the main side, and then the one down across from the post office in was it Powerhouse Road?
Power Station Road, yeah.
Power Station Road. The equipment takes up all the space.
Correct.
It barely fits in.
Barely is the key word.
Right.
Yes.
And then you can't keep all the vehicles there.
Correct.
Because there's not enough bays. And we've had equipment that we purchased recently, which had to be modified to fit into the existing space.
Correct. Not only the building had to be the vehicles had to be modified, but the building as well. Actually, we have 3 fire stations. People don't realize that the one across the street from the Power Station Road headquarters, there's a silver Quonset hut that holds our ladder truck.
That's a relic.
The building, yes, is
World War II.
Correct. Yeah, that building had to be modified. We had to strip out some of the spray and foam insulation in that building just to get our tower truck in. That's how close it is.
Yeah.
We can't walk in front of the tower truck when the bay doors close in order to get to the other side of the truck. We have to open the bay door and actually, walk outside for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a delay with our apparatus being spread out over multiple stations. And when we need a specific piece of apparatus for a type of a call, there is a delay that we have to, take into effect in order to respond, whether it's the heavy rescue truck that's up at the North Main Street station to go to a motor vehicle accident, or the boat that's up at the North Main Street station, or the ladder truck. Just the other day, Oxford had a reported structure fire, and they were going to be calling us for our ladder. All of the guys got all of our gear on, and we had to cross the street in order to get into the ladder truck to go on the run. So.
Yeah. No, and I, one of the things that happens as a community grows, then the demands on the services become even more. And as we build more houses, which is great for our economy and great for our tax rates, as we grow and have these new developments going on and new homes, then that adds pressure. And in the meantime, we have a water issue that we face in this town. So all of those things put together call for something to be done. And this is, why don't you explain to us what this really is?
Sure. So this is a project that is on the coming to an end, we hope. This started 24 years ago. 24 years ago, the town realized that they needed to replace the fire station. So they started their very first committee then. There's been several committees that have come and gone over the years. We were asked about 2.5 years ago to reform the reform the fire station study committee to try to get this project to go. Quickly, probably about 4 months or 6 months into our project, we switched over to a public safety complex, realizing that the police department had some deficiencies, and now was the time to replace both our main headquarters fire station, our North Main Street fire station, the Quonset hut, as well as the police station. So we've been working very diligently, the committee has, for the last 2.5 years, and we've come to this point in time where we actually have a site plan, we have floor plans, and we have artists rendering what the building could look like based off of our current floor plan.
Now, will this vote say go ahead and you're done?
Yeah, so
Or do you have
Article,
to come back again?
well, Article 16 on the town meeting, which is May 20th, 7 o'clock at the middle school, will be to vote to move forward with the build. And because it's a debt exclusion, there will have to be a ballot vote that will take place afterwards. So a couple months later, we'll go to the ballot box down at the Heritage School, and you'll have to vote yes or no to support the debt exclusion. Then, if once that happens, then it's done. Then we will move forward with the build.
Because well, you mentioned 24 years ago. I, at one time, was up in another community not too far from here, and I was chairman of the finance committee. And they wanted to build, there was no question, the parochial school was being closed by the bishop. We had 300 kids that, whether we liked it or not, they're ours for the fall. We had one building that was built in 1890, and windows were falling out of it, and it had already had boilers replaced. And there was no question we needed a new elementary school. And in the history of the town, there had been 7 attempts to do it. And they had got as far as even plans. And then the town would vote it down. And they had already spent, you know, $200,000 or $300,000 on plans. So one of the things I'm always leery of, if you don't intend to support it, don't help it along the way and then vote no.
Right.
You know, and it happens.
So last May, we went to the town meeting and we asked for money to purchase the land, 19.3 acres of land across the street from the Masonic Home,
Yep.
Overlook property, for $179,900. And then we asked for additional money to hire an OPM, an owner's project manager,
Yeah.
as well as to get an architect on board
Yep.
to start helping us design the building. And the town overwhelmingly supported us at that
Right.
time. And we've moved through the process. We've hired Vertex Engineering to work as our owner's project manager, and they've done an incredible job. And then we interviewed multiple architectural companies, and we ended up hiring Tecton Architects to help start designing the building. And they've done an incredible job realizing what our needs were. And then there was this reality that set in. Our original plan called for a 43,000 square foot building, and that's just based off of wants, not needs. So then through the committee, we've worked and worked and worked, and we've got it down to we're somewhere right around 38,000 square foot facility, and it's gonna house all of our apparatus, including all of the police apparatus, including a state-of-the-art communication center, because the communication center has grown so much over the years. You mentioned the growth that's going on in this town.
Yeah.
2 years ago, the fire department broke a record number of calls that we've ever done. We broke it by doing 160 calls more than what we've ever done in the history of the department. Well, last year we broke that record as well.
Yeah.
And then this
Well,
year
it's
we're
not
on
gonna go
pace.
down.
We're on pace to break that record
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Our call volume continues to grow based off of growth in the community,
Right.
and we need to get ourselves in a position where we're able to respond effectively to all of the emergencies that
Right.
we're called for.
Right. Well, not only that, in addition to firefighting, then there's the EMT division.
Correct.
Where we have, what, 3 ambulances?
We do. We have
That
three
are going all the
ambulances.
time.
Yeah, they run all the time. When I first started here in Charlton, it was pretty common to see that first ambulance out, and then every now and then we would see that second ambulance
Yeah.
going out, and then the third ambulance was even rarer. However, nowadays the first ambulance goes out constantly. The second ambulance is going out quite frequently,
Yeah.
and we've had multiple incidences in the last 5 years where we're using that third ambulance to go out on a third medical call, and that's just becoming the norm.
Yeah. And by the way, those are revenue drivers.
Correct.
I mean, that money comes back in.
We bring in about $1.1 million
Yeah.
in ambulance revenue every year.
That's great. But again, you know, as the community grows, the demands are greater. And I know one of the things, I used to be involved in another community, and they just built a new station. And I got invited. I went up before they had like a little gathering of old friends. And one of the fire chiefs was my neighbor for many years, and former fire chief. And they were showing off the new building. And I was so impressed because they're now drive-throughs. So they don't have to back the trucks in. When they come back, they go around and drive right back through, and they're ready to go again. where all the old stations, they had to pull up in front, back them back in, you know, and get them ready to go out. But all the new stations, I was just so impressed because it saves time, money, energy, you know.
Yeah, we've worked with the architect on this building to make it as energy as efficient as possible. We're not going for the LEED certification because it's very costly, but yet
Yeah.
we're making the standard to be LEED compatible as
Right.
well. Our bays that we've designed are 12 fire truck bays. So we need 11 right now based off of our current apparatus. We would need 11 spots, and obviously it's very difficult to make 11 bays. Why you might as well just make a 12. So we added that 12th bay or 12th parking spot for a future growth. One of the things that we've realized is we don't know what we're going to have in 25 years. We don't know what we're going to need. We can only predict.
You know, I'm glad you say that because many times, and one of the things, I was chairman of the elementary school building committee in that community, and one of the things I said to the committee, and I had one of the people on the committee was the principal of the elementary school. Who better than he knew what a new school needed?
Right.
But I kept saying to him, Stanley, we're going to build it. You remember, you're building it today, but it's going to be used for 50 years. You've got to project. If you know when we're doing it, let's get if we need 3 extra rooms, you know. And the bind was that you can't just do it. You have to name that room, or the state won't approve it. So we had to create names, but by the time the school opened, one of them was already used. From the time we designed it until we finished it, one of the rooms had to be used. So that's how fast sometimes. And this town's not going to get smaller. It's only going to get larger.
No, I agree.
I mean, we have land, we have low taxes, and we have plenty of room. And so as long as you've got available space, that people are going to move here and there's going to be buildings built. So the demand on the department isn't going to get less, it's going to get more.
Correct. And we designed this building, both the police and fire side of the building, with a fine line of preparing for future growth, but also understanding that it's not a blank checkbook that we have. So we had to design the building with some projected anticipated growth.
Right.
So Tecton Architect worked with both departments and they projected out our future growth and what we're going to have for call volume and personnel, including the police. And they predicted out what their crime rate was going to be.
Right.
And there's the formulas that they used. So we have put in some slight amount of increase.
Well, you know, the other thing I mentioned that the other community did, the one I went up to look at, I noticed on one end of the building, where the bays were, was there's a whole big space. And I said, how come we get all the extra room over there? They said, Dick, it's going to be cheaper 10 years from now if we have to bring in 2 new trucks to put an addition on this building to house those 2 trucks than it is if we don't prepare for it now. Then we got to go buy land, or we got to figure out a different configuration. But we have that extra land we bought, so that all we have to do is add on 2, 3, 4 bays as if and when needed, which I thought was proper planning. Didn't cost anything to do it, and yet it's available to do, you know, down the road if you need it.
And I think that's where we're at with this building, and that comes up with the site location. So the first picture depicts the building being situated on Masonic Home Road, pretty close to the existing building, which is on the right. It's in that shadowed area. So we reference it based on the little dirt turnoff that people are familiar with during, especially the fireworks on Old Home Day. So that's where the building would be situated. It's in that little bit of corner. It is separated into police and fire, and then there's a public entrance as well. It does give us the ability to add out if we need over the years. But the other thing that we talked about recently in Monday's committee meeting was we're preparing, or we've performed our due diligence in this building to make sure that we've prepared for the future. So we don't want to have to come back to the taxpayers anytime soon and ask for additional money for a bump out, because we've done our due diligence in making sure that we don't run into problems that other communities have run into. One of the important things about this building is it also houses a community room. It houses a dual community training room as well as an emergency operations center, which this town doesn't have yet. So we have a major disaster that occurs in this town. We don't have an emergency operations center that we can open where all of the department heads of police and fire and highway and the town hall can come together, Board of Health, CERT teams, the MEMA agency can come together and figure out how to mitigate this disaster where we've designed this in this building, and that's actually in this glass area up on the second floor.
Wow.
Which would be open to the community. They can, any organization in the community, as long as the room's not being used,
Right.
we want them to use it.
Well,
We
you know
wanted
what?
them to be invited into the building as much as possible.
Well, another thing too, communications have changed so dramatically. The other day, I got an alert on my phone that there was a tornado warning for this area. I went, whoa, and so I would imagine that with police and fire in the same location, are you on the same frequency?
We're not on the same frequency, we're on the same bandwidth, so
Okay.
we can kind of talk to each other. But that's what we would do. If that tornado warning came out, we could open up this emergency operations center. We could put the radar up on the screens. We can start formulating a plan. We can come up with a pre-plan of an idea.
Right.
So if there was a disaster, if the tornado did come through Charlton again, and there was a greater amount of damage that did occur, as in like the other communities to the west of us when
Yeah.
that tornado came through, what we've prepared for, we have a short period of time, but we can put some plans in place. So that's the other advantage to having us all being in one building as well.
Right. And then, of course, someone along the way is going to say, okay, now what are you going to do with the old buildings? Are they really any value at all?
So it's a great question, and everybody wants to know that. There's a couple questions that keep coming up, and that's one of them. The one on North Main Street has got no value at all. It's a 1934 building.
No.
It's falling down. It takes on water every
Yeah.
single day, especially in the spring. And there's 2 sump pumps that work in that building, and it constantly works, and they're constantly pumping out water.
So you get that's gone.
So that's gone. They're going to tear that down, and they're going to just pave that whole area, and they're going to make it into a parking lot.
Right.
So then the current fire station, our headquarters on Power Station Road, they're going to sell that off to. They're going to put it on the market, and they're going to sell it if anybody wants that. They're going to use that money from the sale of that to help start paying down this debt as well. The Quonset hut across the street, it's in the lease agreement. That's on leased land. We don't own that land that it's
okay.
on. It sits on leased land to the property to the right, and it's in the agreement that they get the building and the land, that it goes to them afterwards. It has of no value as
I
well
was
because
even
we
thinking-
can't move it.
I was even thinking if the town's keeps Power Station Road building, it's great for vehicle storage. If the highway department needs a place to store trucks and so forth, it's there.
No, and we're not. And correct me, we're not saying that that's what's going to happen. These
Right.
are all the ideas that have come
Right.
up in the meeting. If this building passes, it's the municipal building committee that is currently in place.
Right.
They're the ones that are going to end up having to decide
What to do
a
with
lot
it.
of these things. And then the current police station, they want to repurpose that current police station. There's a lot of different ideas out there as far as senior center, bringing the seniors down there, and so that way they have easy access to the Overlook for the people who come to the senior center from the Overlook. There's other ideas of municipal offices to move some of the offices out of the current town hall over to there. The ones that are in the town hall that do a lot of business outside of the town hall, such as Board of Health and Conservation and Building Commissioner, they can move them down to the municipal offices. Again, nothing has been said
No.
definitively what's going to happen. There's no true plan, but
Right.
the current police station would get reused as another town department.
Right. Oh, there's no question about it. But it's a situation that the community has to look at. Now let's explain it. If at the town meeting, now what's it going to take, a 2/3 vote?
2/3 vote, Article 16,
All right.
correct.
So let's make an assumption, which are always dangerous. But let's make the assumption it passes.
Sure.
Does that mean go ahead and build it, or is there more to come?
So right afterwards, there would be a ballot vote that would have to take place as well. So they would schedule a vote that would occur down at the Heritage School, the same as a regular
A
election
vote to do what?
to approve it. So because it's a
that's
debt exclusion, it requires two votes to take place. One of them at town meeting and one of them at the ballot.
Okay.
So if it passes at the ballot box, as the second affirmative, then it would start. They would be able to start building the building.
And what are you looking at in time? Yeah, 2 years?
So if it passes in May and then it goes to the ballot box and it passes at the ballot, then it takes about 9 months to get a shovel in the ground. And then it takes just under a year from the minute the shovel goes in the ground to the minute that we could move in. So we're looking at about 21 months is really where we're at, 21 months to 24 months, depending on how long we wait after the May town meeting and before the ballot vote happens. There's a lot of moving parts as far as when we decide to do the ballot vote. We obviously have to do it during the school year, so the school is open. And then that's up to the town clerk and the town administrator to set that date of when the ballot vote would happen. It's the same process that they use for the highway bond.
Now that's interesting, though. If there's so many scenarios, if one passes and the other doesn't, where does
Correct.
that put you?
It puts us back to the drawing board where we have to figure out what we need to do in order to get it to pass. So we look for feedback. So with the understanding of feedback is we're trying to get the feedback that we need now before we go to the ballot vote and before the town meeting. So we've scheduled presentations to get citizens to come and tell us what they like and what they don't like and what we can change, and maybe we can answer some of their questions and make them more informed. So that way, if they're on the fence of voting yay or nay, we can give them the information that they need and let them make that informed decision. You know, we have social media pages out there. We have a Facebook page and we have a Twitter page.
Right.
Charlton Public Safety Building is on both of those pages. We constantly put the plans up for people to view. We remind people of when the meetings are. Every Monday we meet at 10 o'clock in the morning in the Selectmen's meeting room. And then we're going to have the schedule up for the presentations that we're going to be giving. Like I said, we have the first 3 Thursdays of May. We have presentations scheduled. We have another one tomorrow afternoon at the Overlook, and we're going to probably do at least another 3 or 4 more. We're in the final stages of working out an open house on the Saturday before the vote, so citizens can hear the presentation, we hope at the library, and then after they hear the presentation, they can travel down to the police station and they can travel to the fire station. They can walk through those buildings and really see what we're trying to tell them is why there's a need.
Well, but I mean, you know, at this stage of the game, I find it hard to believe that somebody really could be opposed to a public safety complex that is desperately needed. And I understand. I mean, do you have any feedback? I mean, is there any opposition to it?
So we haven't heard anything. We haven't heard any negatives, and we haven't really heard any positives either. We've heard nothing. We keep putting the information out, and everybody
Well, I'm
says,
positive.
Well, and you know, I appreciate that greatly. And
I
everybody,
mean, my point is, here's a community that is growing by leaps and bounds. It's growing. Fact is, it's growing. We also have Route 20 and the Massachusetts Turnpike. That everybody drives too fast. Those roads are fraught with danger. Anytime there's an accident, Charlton gets the call. And so you're on the move all the time. And so as a consequence, we have a situation here where if we're going to continue to grow in this community, if we're going to continue to move forward, then we've got to bring those resources that are vital. I mean, we're very fortunate that we have a low crime rate.
we do.
And yet, at the same time, you never know where it's coming from next. All you have to do is put on the news, okay? And I don't have to remind people of what's gone on in this country in the last 4 weeks, okay? You never know what's going to happen next. And we need to be prepared just in case it does. And I'm not trying to, you know, be a fearmonger. That's not my point. My point is logically, this is a well-planned, well-thought-out proposition that's going to provide the community with fire and police protection for the foreseeable future. And it's going to make the community a better place to live.
No, and I agree. And part of the issue is not that we may be hearing a lot of negatives. We have a lot of unknowns still. There's a lot of people that I've talked to that don't know that we're a full-time fire department. They don't know how many police officers we have that are working at one time. They don't know that our form of government is town meeting on, that's how we set our form of government, is May 20th at the
Right.
town meeting. So we want to have people to be informed as much as they possibly can for them to understand. So these presentations that we give, we use it as sort of a platform to let the citizens know what you have for a fire department, what you have for a police department, where we're running out of, where our fire stations are. You know, we just had a town person call us the other day to do a car seat installation for their vehicle, and they didn't know where their fire station was, and they've lived in town for over 10 years.
Right.
So this is a way for us to remind people where your services are, and then this is what we're trying to do is to better the overall public safety for the community.
right.
There is another site, Dick, just so real quick, so this is Site 1, and I don't have the board for Site 2. Site 2 is just to the left, yeah, a little bit above there, closer to St. Joseph's parking
Yeah.
lot. The architect is working out two different options. They're giving us cost estimates on both options. They both have pros and they both have cons. So we're trying to figure out which site gives us the most pros and the
Right.
least amount of cons.
Well, the one thing about the road up that go into St. Joseph's parking lot, it saves you a lot of time if you get a call on that side of town.
Correct, and that's what, either site would, they are working on a plan to build a secondary access road to
Yeah.
H. Putnam Road.
Yeah.
The other site would be easier to build the out driveway, but
Yeah.
the other site puts the building about 350 feet off the roadway, where this site puts the building at about 60 feet off the roadway. So again, there's pros and cons to both
Right,
of them.
yeah.
We should be making a decision on Monday,
Yeah.
officially what site we are going to be selecting. And then at the town meeting on the 20th, we are going to give a little presentation like we did at last May's town meeting to inform anybody that's there who weren't able to attend any of the meetings that we have scheduled this month. We'll give them a little presentation, and then hopefully, get an affirmative vote.
Right. Well, and I think the good news is that you've done your homework, and that you've worked and worked, and and I kind of chuckle when I think of 24 years effort. Now, I'm the first guy to put my hand up. I was at the post office one day to get my mail, and I just decided to walk across the street, and I was dumbfounded when I was given a little tour, and there's no rule. You can't walk behind the engines when they're back in.
No.
There's no room.
There's a lot of deficiencies, and
Yeah.
we encourage the people to come down to not only the fire station, but the police station. Anybody who's unsure of which way they're going to vote on May 20th, come down, let us give you the tour,
Yeah.
and let you make your informed decision as whether or not you're going to support it or not. This new facility takes into account the cancer prevention that we're trying to do in the fire department, in the fire service. It gives us a room specific for our contaminated turnout gear to be washed. Right now, we can't wash our contaminated turnout gear. It stays dirty. We run it through a regular household washing machine, but it doesn't actually get the contaminants out. There's going to be plenty of space for safety concern as far as being able to walk in between fire apparatus and behind fire apparatus.
But look at that. Look at these hazmat situations that develop. I mean, it's just the future.
We have a hazardous mitigation trailer up at our Station 2 up in North Main Street, specifically designed to respond to an emergency in town where there is a hazmat situation, an oil leak that
Yeah.
may occur, or a diesel truck that rolls over. Well, that truck is delayed in a response because we have to wait for personnel to
Get
take a
there.
vehicle to go up from headquarters to go up to Station 2 to hook up the trailer to actually then respond.
Respond.
All the trailers would be at one building. Emergency management
Right.
would be in one building. EMS,
Right.
fire, police, communications.
Good.
We'd all be in one building.
Well, Captain, thank you very much. We've certainly touched the subject, and folks, find out about it if you're in doubt. Check it out. Go down to the fire station. They're more than happy to show you what the dilemmas are, and think about it. If you love Charlton and you want to live here and grow with it, now's the time. And that's another Conversations with. Thanks for watching.